Today is December 28th. It's the 363rd day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. On this day in 1795, the construction of Yonge Street begins in York, Upper Canada, which today is known as Toronto. Yonge Street runs from the shores of Lake Ontario to Lake Simcoe, north of Bradford, Ontario. Prior to its construction, there's a path in its place connecting the two lakes called the Toronto Carrying Place Trail. Ontario's colonial administrator John Graves Simcoe moves the capital of Upper Canada from Newark, present-day Niagara-on-the-Lake, further north to York, present-day Toronto, on Lake Ontario. Simcoe makes this move after the breakout of hostilities between the British and French in 1793, believing Newark to be too exposed to attack by the Americans just across the Niagara River. Simcoe chooses the Toronto Carrying Place Trail as the route for a new road connecting Lakes Simcoe and Ontario, and in the spring of 1794, he offers land grants along the trail to settlers with the idea that the settlers will forge a roadway and build sidewalks along their plots. Several dozen families take up the offer, and progress is made on the route for a time, but a proper road fails to materialize. And so it is that on this day, in 1795, the Queen's Rangers begin formal construction of a street, starting at Eglinton Avenue and heading north. John Simcoe names the street Yonge Street in honor of his friend, an expert on ancient Roman roads named Sir George Yonge, because he's a good friend, and because Simcoe already has a lake named after him. Yonge Street, construction of which begins on this day in 1795, was for a long time considered the longest street in the world. But that's only true if you include all of Ontario's Highway 11 with it when calculating its distance. Yonge Street formerly being part of Highway 11. Yonge Street itself, though, is over 50 miles long, which is a pretty good distance. On this day in 1972, Kim Il-sung is named President of North Korea. Kim Il-sung is already the Premier of North Korea, and he's also the General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea. But in December 1972, a new constitution is proclaimed, under which Kim is elected President for life by the Supreme People's Assembly. Kim Il-sung is born in 1912, which now is the year that North Korean history begins, according to the Juche calendar. He ascends to power in 1945 after the overthrow of Japanese rule in Korea. He's appointed Prime Minister of North Korea in 1948. He invades South Korea in 1950, which leads to the Korean War, which results in a ceasefire in 1953, after which Kim builds a cult of personality around himself, a practice which his son, Kim Jong-il, will carry on after him. Kim Il-sung is named President for life of North Korea on this day in 1972, and even though he passes away in 1994, he is still President of North Korea to this day, holding the title Eternal President of North Korea, with his son and now grandson succeeding him as rulers of North Korea with whatever lofty titles of supremacy they wish to bestow upon themselves. And born on this day in 1922, the king of the comic book, Stan Lee. Lee is born Stanley Lieber in New York City. He's an avid writer who dreams of writing the great American novel. After he graduates high school early, he gets a job through family connections with a publisher called Timely Comics. He is 16 when he starts at Timely Comics as an assistant in 1939. Getting coffee, picking up lunches for the staff, making sure the inkwells are full for the artists, and proofreading pages. He figures he'll stay there for a little while and get some experience, and then get out there in the real world. In 1941, he's offered the opportunity to do some writing, contributing the text for Captain America Comics number 3, Captain America Foils the Traitor's Revenge. Lieber wants to save his proper name for the title page of that great American novel he plans to write. So he uses a pseudonym for his credit on the Captain America comic book, billing himself as Stan Lee. Stan Lee goes on to have a long and lucrative career at Timely Comics, which in the 1960s becomes Marvel Comics. He co-creates some of Marvel's most popular characters, such as Spider-Man, Iron Man, the Hulk, Daredevil, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Doctor Strange. And in the process, he revolutionizes the comic book industry, both in the creation of characters and storylines, the credit given to all the contributors from the writer to the inker, to the interaction with the comic book community of fans, a relationship with the readers that he still fosters to this day by making regular appearances at Comic-Con and other Marvel events. Stanley Lieber, born on this day in 1922, never writes the great American novel, but Stan Lee co-creates some of the most enduring characters of the 20th century that continue to be wildly popular with audiences of all ages, thanks to the success of the slate of ginormous budget Marvel films of the past decade. There are 3 days left in the year. On This Day is produced by me, Dave Schultz. Thank you very much for listening. 10 Days of On This Day podcast continues, revisiting my favorite episodes of the year, and now we're getting to my favorite episodes, beginning with August 4th, Lizzie Borden. You can have a listen to that episode at Twitter at OnThisDayPod, again that's at OnThisDayPod, or Facebook /OnThisDayPodcast. So if you're still listening, Excelsior. Talk to you tomorrow.